Carolyn Doobie here. What's our play for today? Well, today I'm playing in my art journal, and it's all about the OOPS. Yep, the outstanding opportunities presenting suddenly, because at one point they come pretty fast and furious. Now, this art journal page was inspired by something, and I gotta tell you, in this video, you are gonna find out unequivocally how, that sound right? Anyway, tongue-tied, you will know how I can predict the future. I knew in 1999 something that was going to happen today. I predicted it and I prepared for it. Well, enough of my talking. Come enjoy this art journal page. Well, this page is inspired by the moon. I was out walking the dogs and it was just this giant, huge moon, thanks to the orbit of the Earth and the moon and all that scientific stuff. All I know is this thing was huge and you could actually see the man in the moon with your bare eyes. Now, the background that I'm using here, well, I started it who knows when. It's a cleanup page from who knows what. All I know is it frankly looks kind of like a little bit of a colorful mess, and it's just perfect for my man in the moon. Now, I'm going to rubber stamp him there in a permanent ink because I know I'm going to be adding paint layers and more stuff to this, and I don't want it to run. But am I going to put just one moon on here? Absolutely not. I'm going to put a bunch of them on here because it feels like over the last year, every time I've been watching the news and they talk about what an amazing moon we're going to be able to see, they keep saying it's a once in a lifetime, and then about 2 months later, I seem to be hearing about another one, once in a lifetime kind of thing. And that's why there's more than one moon on this page. But without even knowing it, an oops has already happened. Yep, there's an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. Now, I don't even know it's a problem yet, but it's going to become a problem a little bit later in the video. So now what I'm doing is just adding some layers of color around with different bits of acrylic paint. Just tracing around, going around my moons, making them stand out a little bit more. Now, by the way, I mentioned in the intro about how I was able to tell the future. And this is how. It's that rubber stamp, that man in the moon rubber stamp. I have had that since approximately 1999. Now, how do I know that was the year? Because that's the date on the stamp. So around that time, I probably bought this stamp because that was when I was really super into rubber stamping. So it's not surprising that that time frame is about right. But I haven't used it but a couple of times in all those years. But now, for this page, it was exactly the perfect, absolutely perfect stamp that I needed for this page to go with that feeling that I had after seeing the man in the moon on that walk. So I was able to predict almost 20 years ago that I would need that stamp today. And so if you're thinking to yourself, wow, she's amazing, does she know lotto numbers? The answer is no. What I'm really good, though, is rationalizing why I buy some of the art supplies that I do and why I hang on to them. Well, things are moving along just fine as I'm getting every color in the rainbow here added onto this page, and I'm playing around with the pattern that was already on there. But I'm having such fun with that pattern, I want to bring in some more. So I'm going to grab the Circles Laramie stencil that I designed for over at StencilGirl Products, and I am just taking a paintbrush and very loosely and sloppily and very mixed media style stenciling that in. Then what I'm going to do is flip the stencil over and I'm going to use the smaller circles. Now these circles I'm going to put around one of the moons because you can kind of see it through the stencil where the face is. That way I can have these dots going behind the moon. Well, now I'm going to deal with the title, and I want to do once in a lifetime. So I'm going to take the word life and the word time and put them together and create lifetime using my Are We There Yet stencil, also from StencilGirl Products. Then I'm going to write with a pen once in a lifetime. And it was hideous. I didn't like it. Oops. Yep, that's an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly to add just a little more color there to cover that up. Well, I'm going to come back to that title area, but first I'm going to let that orange and yellow paint dry a little bit, so I'm just going to start playing around with colors on other areas of the page. It's not like I'm really that patient, so if I can entertain myself playing somewhere else while it dries, then I'm all good with waiting for something to dry. And as I'm painting around these, I'm realizing that I've got this big gaping hole in the middle of this page. All of my moons are going around the edge, but there's nothing in the middle. And that's the oops that I set up in the very beginning. And I didn't even realize it was an oops. But it really is an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. That now is a space where I can fill it in with something else. Although right now, I've got no idea what I want to put there. And part of me is tempted to put another moon on there, but there isn't really a good way to position the moon in there. So that's pretty much getting tossed out as an idea. So I have to figure something else out. Now, before I get to that, I am going to need to deal with that title. I want to get that once in a lifetime on there. But yeah, I'm not really a big fan of my handwriting, so we're going to see how this goes. So I didn't like it when doing it with the little pen, so now I'm going to try doing it a little bit larger, doing it in all capital letters and going over it a couple of times, making it extra dark. And it's okay, it's fine. I'm still not in love with it, but I'll come back and deal with that later. Well, I realize the whole man in the moon thing needs my sort of crazy little dancer guy here. He was just what I needed to go with, the kind of person that I think would be dancing with the moon. So I've got it positioned on top of the title, and then I've got just some plain old white heavy body paint there, and I'm just going to stencil right over that. Now, why was I hesitating there? Because I love all that color and pattern under there. Oh, and it just felt so painful to put white paint on top of it. The sacrifices I make for an art journal page. So I'm putting on the white paint here, putting on a fairly heavy coat of it, and I'm being careful to go in an up and down motion. That way the paint does not go under the stencil, and I'll end up with a very opaque look because I do want to cover up the paint that's under there. So I've got one guy on there, but he's looking kind of lonely on there. I'm going to put a second one on there, and I'm going to grab another stencil that I created for StencilGirl Products, and this has a smaller version of him, so I can have him on an upper part of the page. Now, not surprisingly, this is going to create some white space on the page, or a white area on the page, because I'm using white paint to do it. But I have a natural inclination whenever there's white space to cover it up with some kind of color. So we'll see what the consequence of that is in just a moment. But first, I need to deal some more with that title. That once in a lifetime, I'm not a big fan of my handwriting. So my answer to things is to put more layers on it. So I've just added a little bit of paint on top of it, thinking that might make me happier with my handwriting. Now get ready because the rest of this video is going to be oops after oops after oops. So I'm using a Stabilo pencil here to trace around my fun little dancing guys, giving them a little bit of a sketchy outline. And I could have stopped here, and looking back, maybe I should have stopped here. But you know what? I'm drawn to color, so I'm going to live dangerously. I'm going to take that risk, and I started putting some color over the white. Now, as soon as I lift up that stencil, I'm going to say oops. Yep, it's an oops. I do not like that yellow on there. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to go up and play around with the other one, and I'm going to put a different color on top of that one. So he's getting some of the teal, and that one, not so oopsie. So you know what? I'm going to take some of that teal and put it on top of the yellow guy, and we'll just see if I'm happy with him after I do that. I'll give you a hint. Oops. So it's an opportunity for another layer. So I'm going to put that stencil right back on there. That way it will stay within the lines and it'll look like maybe I did all sorts of cool fancy layering as I bring in yet another color to put on top of him. Oh, and guess what? Yep, this one's going to be an oops too. Still not liking it, so it's an opportunity for me to add more on top of it. I'm going to put the buttons back on him to see if that helps me with it, but no, he still needs a whole lot more. Now, if you're enjoying seeing how I deal with my mistakes, my failures, these horrifying things that I just call an oops, then check out my blog over at colorfuljourney.com and get signed up for my newsletter because if you like this oops, there are always more of them coming because I make oopsies all the time. Especially on this guy, it seems. Now, after I go around him with the Stabilo pencil, I'm realizing I really don't want him to have that line on his legs, so I'm going to bring in some more paint to deal with that oops. And as I'm doing this, I'm adding more colors to it, all in the hopes of trying to rescue this hot mess of this guy in the middle of my page. And once I was doing the scribble journaling, I realized what his name is. On this page, he is Mr. Oops, because that is what he has been. Oops after oops after oops. But you know what? I've had a lot of fun putting all these layers and playing in my art journal, and that's what's most important to me. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've been enjoying this video, why not give it a thumbs up? And as long as you're clicking buttons, why not hit that subscribe button? That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out. And of course, if you're looking for more play, head on over to the blog at colorfuljourney.com. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.